Okay, I think it's time to begin. So good morning and welcome to Yoga Over 50, coming from Blue Point Yoga Center. My name is Lynn and it's good to have you with me this morning. So what we're going to do today is do some pretty common yoga poses and movements, but with attention to what don't you need. So one yogic principle is not taking up more space than you need, using your energy and resources wisely. Um, yeah, so one physical aspect of that is not using parts of your body or muscles or whatever that you don't really need in order to accomplish what you're trying to do. And you've probably seen people who like move their lips or clench their jaw or doing something else while they're reading. So you can actually waste quite a bit of energy and even cause yourself some pain um, by habitually using resources that you don't actually need in order to get the job done. So that's what we're going to give a little exploration to today. So we're going to begin with a posture where you don't really have to use much of any muscle energy. So we'll begin in what's called a constructive rest position, which is lying on your back with your feet flat and your knees bent, with your feet out a little bit. So rather than having them just hips width apart, let them be a little further apart and your toes turned in just a little bit, and in a position where it's comfortable to just let your knees knock together. So now your legs are supported by the fact that your knees are touching so that you don't have to use any muscle energy. And the fact that you've got your hips at a little bit of a flexed position releases all the muscles that are crossing the hip joint here in the front of the body and allows them to be at rest. And the fact that you're lying on the floor lets a lot of your other torso muscles be at rest. Your legs are supporting themselves without the muscles of the legs and the feet having to work. And you can let your arms out along the side of your body in whatever position is comfortable. But if you can, take a palms up position so that you let your shoulders rest toward the floor and also release the muscles along the front of your body. If you find when you're lying down that your chin is tipping way up toward the ceiling, kind of crimping the back of the neck, a little bit of a prop under the head, maybe roll the mat a couple times or put a little fold of towel or a small pillow under your head, not to prop it up, but just to let the back of the neck stretch out long and also relax. So the first thing we're going to do is be at ease here. And sometimes that's more easily said than done. One thing that can help is to pick your bum up and grab the large muscles of the buttocks and move them out to the side. And then settle yourself again. Sometimes that helps really relax into the floor. Again, stretch the neck long, not a forceful way, just make sure you don't have any crimps in your neck. And now we'll just check around the different parts of the body. So let your eyes close or let your gaze be soft. And start with your left foot. And just make some inquiries as you go up through your foot, past your ankle, looking for places that might be doing something that they don't need to be doing, something that's not resting. Past your knee, your thigh, into the hip where there are the large muscles going both around the back and around the front of the hip joint. It's very important, of course, because most of the time we're in an upright position, either seated or standing or walking or moving some other way where those muscles are really important for stability. But this is a posture where all those muscles can relax and have a rest. On up the left side of your body, see if you can feel the left side of your waist relax, the left side of the ribs relax. Up into the left shoulder, maybe the left shoulder can just Rest a little more heavily into the floor and the back of the left arm and on down into the hands. And the hands are another place that very commonly hold tension in a way that doesn't really serve the purpose of whatever activity you're doing or not doing. And in this case, I know that my fingers are like a little bit closed up toward the palm of my hand, and I'm not going to, well, stretch them out and just see how that feels. But I'm not going to force them to stay stretched out. I'm just going to let them relax. But I'm hoping that with a little bit of time, they'll maybe unfurl themselves a little bit, rest a little closer to the floor. For me, it's a sign of too much tool use if my fingers want to stay clenched up toward my palm when they really have an opportunity to be resting. And we'll go on up the left shoulder and the side of the neck, and up into the head and the face. So another place that tension commonly resides, the muscles around the neck and the shoulders, the jaw, the muscles of the face, muscles that attach to the cheekbones, the muscles around the eye sockets, the forehead. When you're at rest, your mouth can be closed, but with the teeth lightly parted and the tongue at rest. So the tongue just lying quietly in your mouth, a little behind the front teeth. And then we'll head down the right side of the body. So down the side of the neck and the top of the shoulder and into the shoulder, resting completely into the floor. And the back of the arm and the back of the hand on the right side, resting completely. Fingers as relaxed as they're willing to be at this point. And on down the right side of the body, past the ribs, past the waist and into the right hip. Down the right thigh, past the knee. On down the shin, into the ankle, and into the foot. So the feet are another place that can hold tension. Right now, the feet don't need to do anything. They're just there, making themselves into props. They can be completely at ease. Take a few breaths here. If you like, you can put a palm on your belly and feel your belly travel in and out. The core muscles don't need to do anything here. Your back is well supported on the floor. So they have room to breathe in and breathe out. So if you put one hand below your navel and the other one a little further up in your chest, just kind of take note of which is the more prominent place of movement. Is it above your belly button or below your belly button? And remember, we observe without criticizing. So yeah, no need to change anything, just kind of noticing. If you find that the upper part of the torso moves more than the lower part, just check around the lower part, see if there's anything more that might be relaxed there. And maybe that relaxation in turn allows a little more freedom of movement of the muscles around the torso below the navel. And then bring your knees apart, walk the feet together a little bit, stretch the arms out to the sides with the palms facing up. Take some just easy, not very far sways of the knees, and let that roll you to one side. Pause, and then use your arms to press yourself away from the floor, and come around to hands and knees. We'll have a little warm up on hands and knees. So you could use your forearms if that would be more comfortable than having the weight into your wrists and your hands. Knees under the hip joints, wrists under the shoulders, side to side, maybe ahead of the shoulders a little bit, front to back, maybe under the shoulders. Pressing into all parts of the hand, giving a little traction of the hands toward each other. And we'll just have a little movement here. So we'll just begin by bringing the right leg back, stretching it long and setting it down. Left leg back, stretching it long, setting it down. Then the right leg and the left arm, inhale up, exhale down. The opposite pair, inhale up, exhale down. Another set of those, inhale up, exhale down. Oh, I two more sets of those. Just kept going. And then inhale the right leg back again, this time with the toe and the ball of the foot on the floor. Give a little press with the hands, a bit of a stretch to the back of that leg and the bottom of the foot. And exhale it back down. And then on the left side, the same thing, straight back with the heel up toward the ceiling. A little pressure back to stretch the bottom of the foot and the back of the leg. And then again on the right side, stretching through the back of the leg and the bottom of the foot. Inhale to be very long in the center. Then exhale to sweep that foot across behind you. Keep pressing the ball of the foot and the toe into the floor, leading out with the heel. And on an exhale, make a curve of your body so that you look over your left shoulder toward that extended leg. And then inhale to bring yourself back into alignment in the middle, and then exhale that knee to the floor. And then inhale the left leg back, pressing into the ball of the foot, stretching out through the heel, long in the center. Then exhale to swing that leg around to the right side of your body. Stretch long in the center on an inhale, and then exhale to look over your right shoulder toward that extended foot. Keep pressing out through the heel on that foot. And come back to the center and exhale that knee back down underneath you. And now let's bring the right arm, out to the side, and we'll exhale and thread that arm underneath and lower yourself down so that you come to rest on the side of your head and the side of your shoulder. If you don't rest comfortably there and you've got a little pillow or towel or something that you can put under you to let yourself rest more comfortably, that would be the thing to do here. Press the back of your palm of your right hand into the floor there. If you like, you can wrap with the other arm around the back of your waist toward the opposite hip, kind of opening the shoulders a little more. If you've wrapped your arm, bring that left arm back out to press into the floor so that you can untuck that right arm and bring it back down under the shoulder. And we'll go to the other side. So inhale the left arm out to the side and exhale to thread it under the right armpit, coming to the rest on the side of the head and the side of the shoulder, pressing the back of the palm into the floor. If you like, you can wrap the opposite arm around behind the waist and toward the opposite hip, opening up that right shoulder. Keep breathing the whole time. And bring the wrapped arm back around to press into the floor. And then raise yourself up away. The left arm goes out to the side and back underneath you. And my headphones are falling off, so adjust them a moment. And let's just do a little rocking back to an extended child's pose. So the hips back toward the heels, toes straight out behind you. You can move your knees apart if you like to make a little more room for your body. And stack your hands under your head for a place to rest your head if it doesn't come comfortably to the floor. Stretch the arms out long. Take a long stretch, reaching back through the hips and forward through the fingers. And then inhale to roll yourself back up again. And exhale to rock back. Feeling a stretch through the small of the back. Inhale to roll forward. Give a little traction of the heels of the hands to open the front of the chest into a cow back. And exhale back. So we'll use the extended child's pose as the cat back part. And then roll forward to the cow back. And exhale back again. And inhale to rock forward. Keep coming forward. Take a little dip down on an exhale. Elbows close to the body. Inhale back up. And exhale back. And inhale forward, exhale to dip, inhale to press back up, exhale back. And the next time we rock forward, we're going to let ourselves all the way down so the chin and the chest come to the floor, the butt's kind of sticking in the air, and then we'll slither down to a prone position on the mat. So let your chin or your forehead rest so that your head and neck can stay in line with the spine. Let your arms and your hands make sort of a W shape out at the upper side of your torso with the palms down, elbows bent. And first of all, we'll just take a little rest here. If you feel more comfortable to rest, to stack your palms under your head, that would be fine. If your glasses are bothering you, you're worried about smashing them, it would be good to take them off just temporarily. So take another little check around here. And just see what you don't need. This is a pretty well supported position, just like lying on your back. So see if you can let go. Check the small of your back and see what it's doing here. See if it can let go of any responsibility for your core posture here and just let the floor do the job. And see if the shoulders can let go too. And the back of the neck. Okay, and then bring your arms back out to that W shape and rest either the chin or the forehead on the floor. And we're going to do a little bit of cobra here, but with some attention to things that we do and don't need for this. So one thing you might not think you need, but might be a good idea, is the lower abdominal muscles, the transverse abdominal muscles. So give a little throat clearing or a little tiny cough and feel them pull away from the floor. If you give a sharp exhale, you'll feel those muscles bounce away from the floor. And maybe just giving that sharp exhale will be enough to just give you the information that those muscles are good for supporting the waist part of the spine. So when we do a back bend, a prone back bend, we don't want to put a lot of stress on that part of the body. So we want to distribute the back bending up into the upper part of the spine. So we're going to press down through the tops of the feet and the tops of the thighs and the front of the pelvis. Exhale to support the waist. Inhale. Bring the upper part of the chest and the face away from the floor. You can either leave your hands down or bring your hands up with you. Now, let's just check around a little, see what you're using. Lower down a moment. Relax. Letting everything go for a couple breaths. And then when we go back up, check on your lower back. Check on your face. Check that you haven't lifted your head up to where your eyes are looking forward, because it's the back, not the head and neck, that are doing the raising here. Okay, so we'll bring the chin or the forehead back down to the floor, the arms out to the side, press through the tops of the feet, tops of the legs, in front of the pelvis. Exhale to engage the belly muscles, and inhale to lift away from the floor. A very small cobra will be just fine for this purpose. Take some breaths while you're here so that you have an opportunity to check around. What's your face doing? What's your jaw doing? Should be just kind of drooping toward the floor. Doesn't need to do anything else. What is your bum doing? So the glute muscles sometimes think that they should get overly engaged in this kind of position. Not really needed. Might be able to relax them a little bit. If you let the toes turn in a little bit, that might help with that. And then bring yourself back down to the floor. You can pillow your head again. Bend at the knees, take a little loose roll side to side. And let your legs back down. Come back to that W-armed position. And we're just going to go up and down a few times with the breath. So begin with an exhale, engaging the abdominal muscles. And inhale to float up. And exhale to float down. And inhale to float up. And exhale to float down. And inhale to float up. And exhale to float down. And now bring your hands under your shoulders with your elbows sticking up. So an option here to take a larger cobra if you like, but always being mindful of not overusing parts of your body. So not overusing flexibility at the waist part of the spine, not overusing the glute muscles. So we'll exhale to prepare with those belly muscles and inhale to press away from the floor and lift your upper body up, but only to the extent that you can do so while staying mindful of your lower back. Ask yourself, what are your shoulders doing? Are they down away from the ears? Ask yourself what your face is doing. Is it just relaxed? Lengthen the back of the neck. Take a couple of breaths there. And then slowly hinge yourself back to come to hands and knees. You can take a little bit of a stretch back toward child's pose. And then rock back forward to hands and knees. And we'll come up to a standing position. So come kind of slowly up. Okay, just checking my notes. So we'll take a standing mountain position. So finding the joints of the legs a little to the inside and a little down toward the floor from the bony corners at the front of the hips. And lining up the legs and the long axis of the feet under those points, more or less modified to suit your body. And now let's do a little checking around. So the first thing we could check on is, do you have weight centered in your feet, evenly into the front and the back part of the feet? So let your weight shift forward and back so you can feel it go into the pads at the base of the toes and then the pads at the heels. And settled so the weight seems to go down the middle between those two. You know, when people draw stick figures, they often draw the foot just kind of sticking out from the leg all out to the front of the leg, but it's not like that, is it? The heel goes behind where the leg meets the foot. Yeah, so the weight goes down through the joints of the legs, down through the ankle joint, and it's distributed to both the front and the back of the foot. And we can let the weight shift from side to side. Feel the weight going into the left leg and into the right leg. Settle it down so it feels like you have equal weight on both sides of the body. Give a little out retraction at the heels and just observe what your muscles are doing as you go up your legs. If it doesn't make you too tippy, you can close your eyes while doing this. We're going to make that kind of punching bag motion where we're going to keep the whole body as one unit from the ankles on up through the top of the head, and let the head make a circle around the ankles. So we're going to tip forward from the feet and then out to one side and then tip back a little bit, out to the other side and out forward and then go back around the other way. You can feel all the muscles that have to be catching you as you get off center here. And we'll go back around to the front and then stand up over the feet again. And now when you stand up over your feet in a centered position, those muscles don't have to be catching. And you can kind of reinforce that idea by letting yourself tip forward, feeling the muscles at the front of the legs catch, tip back, feel the muscles at the back of the body catch, And settle down in the middle where neither set of muscles is needing to really activate themselves. Of course, you need a little muscle tone, right? You couldn't be a total noodle or you wouldn't be standing up straight. But you can be pretty relaxed once you get things in good alignment. Now do a little more checking around. Check your toes. Are they gripping tightly into the floor? Try picking them up, flailing them around a little bit and lightly setting them back down. They're important for balance, definitely, but not needing a death grip into the floor, especially in a very stable position like this. And check on up through the legs. Maybe put the hand on the belly, lower belly again. Make sure that the belly muscles are relaxed enough that you can feel them pooch out as you breathe in and fall back as you breathe out. Check around the back of the hips as well. If you give just a little outward traction with the heels, it can create a little spreading sensation across the back of the hips, kind of uncrimp the sacroiliac joints a little bit. Release the glute muscles. They do not have to work too hard to keep yourself upright. Of course, all the muscles around the hip joint have to do a little work when you're standing up in order to keep you from flopping over like a marionette whose strings have been let go, but not too much. And the more relaxed there are, the easier the breath. So let go the glute muscles, let the tailbone uncurl toward the floor. Think long through the rest of the spine, but let that thinking long be a rather passive maneuver. So we're not like really hauling ourselves upright, more like relaxing into being a little more upright. And maybe moving the hips back a little bit toward the heels will help with that relaxation across the lower part of the back. Just turn the palms forward a moment, feel the shoulders relax toward the back of the body and see if they could just stay there while you let your lower arms and your hands turn back in toward the sides of your body. Maybe shrug the shoulders up and down, just letting them rise and fall a few times. Make sure they are relaxed, just hanging away from the ears. They don't need to do anything right now. Back of that neck long. If you put a couple fingers behind your head and tip your head up and down, you can feel that when you tip your head down, you feel some ligaments get a little tighter. When you tip your head up, you feel your fingers get a little more cramped. And in the middle there, there's a very soft place. The little inward curve of the neck, a neutral position for the neck. Check into your face. Do a little thing to relax some of the muscles that are often tight around the neck and the jaw. If you put your fingers into the groove at the top of the collarbone and stretch your head up a little bit so your chin tips up a little bit, and then open and close the jaw. Even kind of thrust the jaw out forward a little bit. And then let go with the arms, let them drop down again, shoulders toward the back of the body. Let the head just loosely swivel side to side a few times, turning it with the head upright toward one shoulder and then the other shoulder and then back to the middle. See if we can create a little more release there. Check your jaw, teeth lightly parted, tongue resting easily behind the front teeth. Check the muscles around the eyes. Take a few breaths here. And then let your eyes come open. And we'll take a few standing postures and looking for some of those same places of tension, things that might not be needed as you do some common yoga poses. So I'm going to turn to the side here in the standing mountain position. And let's inhale the arms up overhead. Exhale to hinge at the hip joint. Hinging forward, the spine goes all as one unit. Your hands can rest on your legs. Bend at the knees, come up into chair. And let's pause there for a little check around. Just breathe in and out. Check your shoulders. Check your elbows. Are they just hanging near your body? So maybe move your hands a little further from your torso if need be to just let the elbows and the shoulders relax. Check the tailbone, stretching down toward the floor. Glute muscles are, of course, doing some work here to keep yourself in this posture. But really, the muscles that curl up the tailbone don't have to participate. Feel the weight into your feet, front and back of the feet, but not a terrible gripping with the toes here. Just check and see that you haven't clenched the muscles that control the tip of the pelvis. So tuck the tailbone under on an exhale, tip the tailbone back on an inhale a few times, just to see that you've got a little freedom of motion there, and then settle it down in a neutral position, but without stiffening too much there. And then we'll press through the knees and inhale the arms up overhead and exhale the arms back down to the sides. And now bring the hands to the heart and step straight back with the toes of the right foot, and then turn the heel in a little bit to warrior one feet. We'll leave the front knee straight for the moment, and bring the fingertips out to the top of the shoulders and rotate the torso to face square to the front of the mat. Press through the ball of the front foot, bend the knee, let the heel down, and then adjust your distance front to back so that you match the amount of knee bend that you have with the distance between the 2 feet. Let your arms rest at your sides for a moment so that you can check to see if your shoulders are upright over your hips. If you're leaned out in front of toward your front leg, then a lot more core muscles will have to be working, as we will demonstrate to ourselves just shortly. But for an upright position, the posture of the shoulders above the hips does a lot of the work. Of course, your legs have to be working here in this asymmetrical posture. But everything doesn't need to be working, so the tailbone doesn't particularly need to be working here. See if that can relax. Right now, your shoulders could be entirely relaxed, your arms. We'll pick them up in a moment. And your face doesn't really need to be doing anything right here, so it could be relaxed. And now let's inhale the arms up. Be straight up along the ears or reaching out to the side a little bit. And now we'll hinge at the hips into an arrow lunge, and we are going to lean out over the front leg. So now a bunch more muscles do need to work. Some muscles through the hip joints, as well as all the way up through the core of the body to support yourself in this position, defying gravity. But the face does not really have to participate. And the breath can be easy, steady here. And inhale back upright again and bring the hands to the heart. Pause for a moment and then step forward. Okay. So let's step back with the other leg. So straight back with the toes, then turn the heel in and flatten the foot. Press through all parts of both the front and the back feet, the inside and the outside edge. And press through the ball of the front foot and lower the heel. Torso rotated to face the shoulders directly toward the front of the mat. Adjust your forward to back distance so that the knee stays at or behind the front ankle, bent knee. Let the arms drop again and check again that you have an upright posture here. And also do a little of that tucking and tipping of the tailbone, exhaling to tuck, inhaling to tip, to see that you've got your pelvis in a more or less neutral position here. In other words, that you're not sticking it way out to the back or forcefully tucking it under. That can have its natural curves of the spine, so that alignment does a big part of the job of supporting the torso here. And now we'll inhale the arms up by the ears. Check your face, check your tailbone. And now we'll hinge forward from the hips, leaning out over the front leg. Now lots more things are working, but not everything has to work. The face doesn't have to work. And we'll inhale to tip back up again. Bring the hands down to the heart. Take a breath here. And then step back forward. Okay, cool. All right. So now let's do a little bit of standing back bend. So we'll stand in a standing mountain position. And let's bring the arms up to cactus arms. And then we're going to do a little back bend with the top part of the torso. So to begin, check the tailbone. Check that you have the pelvis in a neutral position. I just noticed that I was kind of forcefully sticking my tailbone out to the back. So I need to relax that. And bringing the hips a little back toward the heels can be very helpful for relaxing that part of the spine just below the waist. And now we're going to open the top of the chest. So we'll stretch extra length along the front of the breastbone, maybe up a little bit into the front of the throat. Chin tips up a little bit. Your gaze can tip up a little bit. You can draw your elbows a little bit back toward the back of your body. Lots of things working here, but not everything. So the face doesn't need to squinch up. Tailbone and buttocks don't need to clench. Keep breathing. And draw yourself back upright and bring the hands to the heart. We'll shoot the hands up overhead. Exhale, hinge forward, letting the hands run down the legs. And inhale up to make that L shape. Let them run back down, bend at the knees, sweep the arms to the front, bring the hands together and down to the heart. Okay, so we're going to have a little warrior three balance here. So we'll stand in the standing mountain position. Let's see, I'll move back a little bit. Please feel free to either take a chair nearby to put a hand on for balance, or you can be near the wall if you like. So let's start by standing in the standing mountain position. Check around, see what you don't need here. Check the glute muscles, the tailbone, check the face, the shoulders, check the hands, see what the toes are doing. Now let's bring the hands to the heart and shift the weight into the left leg. Draw the left hip a little toward the middle of your body and shift your weight a little toward your heel. Now let a little softness come to the knee of that standing leg, so you don't want it locked out behind you. And we'll just step the toe of the unweighted right foot back behind. And we could just stop there with quite an elegant looking standing mountain or warrior three position here. One leg a little behind, the torso reaching a little bit forward. You could even reach up with your arms if you like, or you could reach back along your hips with your arms if you like. Or you could begin bringing your unweighted foot off the floor, hinging at the hip of the standing leg. The torso comes down only as far as the leg is going up, so that you keep a long line from the back heel up through the top of your head. What don't you need here? Lots of things have to work to keep your balance, but your face squinching up really isn't going to help matters. Clenching your tailbone's not really going to help either. Arching your back overly much, not so helpful. Hunching your shoulders, could reach back along your legs. Keep a nice open front of the body. Keep breathing, holding your breath, not helpful. And when you're done playing with that, stand yourself back up again. Maybe take a little loose joggle up and down. Shrug the shoulders up and down a little bit. And we'll come back to the standing mountain position to set up for the other side. So shift your weight this time into your right foot, drawing the right hip a little in toward the middle of your body, and stand the unweighted left toe behind you. Stop there for a moment and just relax everything that could be relaxed in this position. So you're pressing firmly into your supporting leg. So most of the weight is coming into that leg. Make a little softness in the knee of that leg so that it's not locked to the back. And now, if you like, you could bring the unweighted foot off the floor, tipping yourself forward, but you don't have to tip very far forward. You could just stay only slightly forward, or you could come up to where you can bring your hands to the floor or not. Stretching from your raised heel out through the front of your head. Your jaw really doesn't need to help do this. Your hands don't really need to help do this. Your arms can help by making a kind of a nice counterbalance to the front of the body. Your butt, your glute muscles, they've got here supporting each of these legs, but not clenching your tailbone tightly. So check a little into that. What's your tongue doing? Is it just resting behind your teeth? And when you're done experimenting on this side, tip yourself back up again. Take a little loose side to side sway, bend the knees a little bit. And we'll take a little squat to the floor. Put my notes over here. So if squatting is definitely not good for you, you can certainly hinge to the floor instead, or step 1 foot back, bend the knee down and lower yourself down, whatever works. If you want to squat, let your feet be a little bit wider apart than they would be in a standing mountain position, and bend at the knees and the hips and the ankles, and keep your spine stretching long as you lower yourself down. If you put your bum on the wall, you can have a little extra support from the wall so that your knees don't have to take so much of the work. And we'll come down to a seated position. So we'll take a seated mountain position. And again, like the standing mountain position, we want to put most of the work on alignment. So to sit with careful alignment, we need to have the pelvis tip forward just a little bit so that you have a little inward curve at the waist, but not too much. So let's rock back and forth a little. Exhaling to tuck the tailbone under, flattening the small of the back, inhaling to exaggerate the curve at the small of the back. If you have one hand on your belly and one hand, the back of the palm on the small of the back, you can feel the relationship between those things. You can feel the muscle activity necessary to press the small of the back toward the back of your palm in the back. You can feel the muscle energy necessary to tip the pelvis forward. And when you settle down in the middle, not so much has to work. You could let your shoulders come a little bit ahead of the hips, still keeping the spine long, maybe come a little bit in back of the hips. And finding the position with the shoulders over the hips where alignment is keeping you upright. And in particular, check what's happening at the hinge at the front of the hips and see if you can let those muscles go. Those are the muscles that we were really giving a chance to relax in that constructive rest position at the beginning of class. When you sit down, if your knees are up quite high away from the floor and kind of hanging out in space, providing something for them to rest on can really help with that relaxation at the front of the hips so that you don't have to use these big muscles at the front of the hips to hold your body upright. And that pertains to lots of everyday situations, sitting in a lot of kinds of chairs where you're kind of tipped back will also lead to that clenching of the muscles in the front of the torso, and driving is another situation where you can get into a lot of clenching of those muscles. So especially in yoga, we would like to take the opportunity for those muscles to relax and not need to work. Shrug the shoulders up and settle them down toward the back of the body, hanging away from the ears. If you bring your palms up and out, that is very helpful at broadening the top of the chest. Just letting the elbows relax at the sides. And then you can either leave the palms up or turn the palms down and just rest the hands wherever in your lap or on your legs allows your shoulders and your upper arms to be at rest, your whole arm to be at rest, in fact. Check your tailbone. Just let it uncurve toward the floor. So the glute muscles don't have much work to do here. Check your thigh muscles. Sometimes if you give them a little sort of stroke them away from your hips and toward your knees, sometimes helps them relax a little bit. Check the back of the neck again, same as in the standing position, so you have that soft inward curve. Check your jaw. Maybe let the head swivel from side to side. Come back to the center. Check the muscles around your eyes. Check your tongue. Put your hand, one hand to the below the navel and the other one above. See if you can feel some free breathing movements. And bring your hands back to your thighs. And we'll do just a little bit of easy twisting here. So we'll inhale the arms overhead, stretch long on both sides, straight up. And exhale, turn to your left. Just let one arm come down in front and one behind. And now we're looking for ease here. Shoulders resting comfortably toward the back of the body. Just check to make sure your shoulders have not hunched up in the course of turning to the side. Now, a bunch of muscles of the torso are working to turn you around to the side. But as you exhale, see if you can find some more ease of those muscles. Check on the muscles of your right hip and your right leg. In fact, check both of legs and see if those muscles are just resting heavily into the floor. Check your jaw. And lips, lip muscles. And inhale the arms overhead and turn back through the center and let your arms come down and now recross the legs. So whichever leg you had in front before is now the one behind. And we'll inhale the muscles, the arms overhead, and turn toward your right this time, letting one arm fall in front and one behind. And we'll just make the same sort of inventory. Check the tailbone. Check the muscles at the front of the hips. Now, some of them are working, but don't let them work overtime. Let the knees stay rolled down, resting toward the floor. Shoulders are relaxed away from the ears toward the back of the body. Arms are pretty close to the sides. Still have that soft inward curve at the neck, even though the head may be turned to look toward the back shoulder, still have that same alignment upright. Check your tailbone. Check the muscles at the front of the thighs. They've got to do some work here, but not overtime. Check your jaw and your face. And inhale the arms back overhead into the center and let the arms come down at your sides. So now let's lie down. Let's do a little bit of boat pose here. So this could be a very modest boat pose. So we'll sit with the pelvis tipped a little forward and position your feet at about hip joints width apart and either close or far away from your body, whatever your core muscles can fairly easily hold you upright. So we don't want to be kind of clenching forward. We're sitting with a tall spine here, and that would be the main point. So if you want to put a hand behind the thighs to support yourself, that'll be fine. Now, check on those muscles that come around down the front of the hips, and you can probably feel them kind of like a big, what would it be? Like a big wire, a very big wire at the front of the hips. And now see if you can transfer some of that effort into your abdominal muscles. So see if you can let go with the clenching at the hip joint and give more of the support to your spine from the core muscles as you let your shoulders come back a little behind the hips. Now those hip flexor muscles, they have to work some, but we don't want them to do the whole job. So you can exhale kind of forcefully and engage those abdominal muscles. See if you can take a little load away from the hip muscles. Leave your shoulders back away from your body. Leave your neck long. And then use your core muscles to sit yourself upright and let your knees come out to the side and let the feet come together in a bound angle position. And then bring the knees back up. So it's just about time for Shavasana. So I'd like to combine that with another opportunity that's similar to the constructive rest position in that it allows the muscles at the front of the hips to relax. There's a very big muscle that goes, it attaches to the inside of the upper thigh bone and it comes across the front of the hip and goes deep into the abdomen and it attaches all along the lumbar part of the spine. And that's the psoas muscle, and associated with it, a muscle that kind of lines the inside flange of the hip bone. And those are very important for stabilizing the body in so many things: standing, sitting, walking, running, ton of yoga poses and it gets overused and often tight. So that constructive rest position that we used earlier is a good way to relax that muscle. Another good, very good way to relax that muscle and to, in doing so, relax the body in general is to lay your lower legs up on a chair. So if you have a chair, that's great. If you don't have a chair, you can use the wall equally well by putting your legs up the wall. So I'm going to use a chair, but you could roll over and let your legs rest up the wall, let your bum be whatever distance you need from the wall so that your legs can feel comfortable. So if your knee joints don't want to stretch out entirely straight, you might want to just let your bum be a little further away from the wall, but not so far that your knees are kind of hanging themselves straight. And you want to feel the back of your hips heavy into the floor and your legs heavily down into the hips. If when you put your legs up the wall, you feel like you have to use a lot of muscle energy to keep them there, choose another position, because the idea is not to be using a lot of muscle energy to keep them there. Now, if you're using a chair, you want to have the height of the chair be such that when you put your legs up off the chair, your hips are still down on the floor. So again, we have the weight of the lower legs in the chair, but a little bit of the weight of the legs is still coming down and pressing the hips into the floor. If none of these things is available, just take that same constructive rest position that we had at the beginning of class, where you're lying on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat, with your feet out a little bit and then knees tipping in toward each other so that they're resting against each other. If you turn your toes in a little bit, that is a little more comfortable, so that all the muscles of your legs can be relaxed and so that you have flexion at the hips, which you have both with the legs up the wall and with the legs on the chair and in the constructive rest position, so that these big muscles in the front of the body are resting. So that big muscle is a very important stabilizer of posture and also a helper of movement. But the other thing about those big muscles that run through the abdomen is that they are very influenced by and in turn influence the parasympathetic nervous system. So that is the system that allows you to relax. So that's one reason why these bent-legged postures are kind of emotionally and mentally relaxing, as well as physically relaxing. So we will now be in Shavasana for a few minutes and be relaxed. So let your weight rest heavily into the back of your hips, regardless of your leg position. Let your palms turn up toward the ceiling. Let your shoulders relax toward the floor. Let your tailbone uncurl and unfurl itself toward the floor. So whatever your legs are propped on, allow the tailbone to reach down toward the floor. So we don't have the hips rocked up away from the floor. They're resting heavily into the floor. Take a little scan around the body again, like we did at the opening of class. Check especially any parts that you know carry tension in your body. Check the very common parts like hands, shoulders, neck, jaw, and face. And just take some easy breaths here. Now, if you're happy where you are and want to stay there longer, please just turn the meeting off and feel free to do that. Otherwise, take a little bit deeper breath and begin making a little movement of the hands and the feet. If you have your legs up the wall, bend at the knees, let your feet slide down. If you have your feet on the chair, just draw the knees in toward your chest. You might have to scoot a little bit away from the chair for that. So draw your knees toward your chest to either side of your torso. Kind of hug them up a little bit and then let the tailbone rest down toward the floor. And then take a few rolls side to side and let yourself roll onto one side. Rest there with your eyes closed for a couple of breaths. And then push with your arms, let your head kind of drag behind. Take a seat that will be comfortable for just a moment or two. Using the same alignment principles that we had earlier so that you don't have to use very much muscle energy here. Take a couple breaths, bring the palms together, shoulders, elbows stay relaxed, thumbs near the heart. And we'll close with one Om after an inhale. Om.